can talk a little bit about how we're using Jadu as a corporate solution. We aren't a big council, so we can't make those huge savings in one process. So we have to roll Jadu out as a corporate solution. And as David touched on earlier, our main process for that is complaints. But the benefit of using Jadu is that we can actually reuse elements of other processes and standardize those processes. So for instance, with any payment process, so copy certificates, road occupation permits, there will always be an element of refunding. And when we built our first bulky uplift process, we worked with finance and with audit to sign off an audit process. And every time we need that, we just pick it up from our first process and just drop it into any new process. And we've also done that exactly the same thing with our bank validation. So there was a change in financial regulations that means that every time we pay money into an account, we have to make sure that that account has been validated within the last 13 months. And as part of our free school meal process, again, we worked with finance to validate that, to design a process that validated bank accounts that was separate to the main process. And we've been able to pick that up and reuse that in the education maintenance allowance form that we've designed, and also in the Ukraine process that we designed. The Ukraine process was a prime example of using Jadu to move cases around the council. So it started off with a customer providing information about their process. It went to various back office services to do validation and background checks on people. It then moved into property inspection. And once the property had been inspected and confirmed, it moved around to business admin to do disclosure checks, and then on to finance after that. So Jadu has really enabled us to have that single view of a case moving around the council. So just coming on to complaints. Our first process is the challenges that we had in terms of where we were at with complaints. So we had a legacy system that hadn't really been rolled out to services. Our customer advice and support service managed complaints in the legacy system, but we had to use business admin to support businesses in the services in actually managing complaints. We also had a difficult time with culture, that services weren't taking responsibility for complaints, and a lack of understanding of how important complaints were. There was also resistance to self-service. The service were used to having business admin support them through that journey. The complaint handling system, as I said, wasn't rolled out, and we had a disjointed approach to complaints. So lots of different services handle complaints in different ways because we don't have a centralised complaints team handling complaints. And we also had no record of and no way of tracking all the improvements that we've told customers will make as part of our complaint procedure, and no shared learning across services and teams from those outcomes. So where we've learned how to improve an element of customer service in one service area, we weren't then looking at that to roll it out to other areas to learn and improve customer service across the council. So those were our challenges, and our drivers for change were that we had to move from an incumbent CRM system to Jadu. So we'd procured Jadu and we had to decommission, and that was a massive piece of work. It was a big spider's web of cases, and we had to unpick all of that. And we had to do that in a timely manner because obviously going live with a whole new complaint system that was being rolled out across the whole council in one go was a big deal. We also at the same time had updates to our complaint handling procedure. So for those that aren't from Scotland, from Scottish local authorities, we have a national complaint handling procedure set by the Scottish Public Sector Ombudsman, and they decided about the same sort of time as we were decommissioning our CRM system, they decided to make changes. So we kind of had to build those changes into our new process. And then we had in a few years back, we had an internal audit and they made recommendations as well to improve our journey. So we had to take that on board. And we also wanted to change the culture of complaints in our local authority. We wanted to try and make our officers more engaged with the complaint handling process and to make them more responsible for those changes, for the complaints. So Rachel and I went about a period of review. So we consulted with our directors and our service managers to see what the problems were, and spoke to them about how we might roll out complaints to their managers and to their officers rather than having business support manage the complaint process themselves. So once we went from service to service, mapping out all the functions that the council carries out. I have to say this is actually Rachel that's done all that work. So we mapped out the whole council and we allocated officers to different levels of complaint handling within that structure. But the most important thing for us was mapping the topics of what the complaints are actually about. And Rachel, come on, we're going to do a live demo of allocating complaints in stage 1 to show how we've built that structure around what complaints are actually about. Because previously we mapped out complaints from the top down, so we mapped them out from directorate level down to the service level, and we wanted to change that around to make it easier to reorganize. If a service moved from say for instance we recently had homelessness move from customer advice and support back into social work, that was really difficult previously to remap where that complaint was being handled. So we wanted to change that so that it was easy for us to move services around without causing too much disruption. So that complaint topic mapping was also really important, but we also knew that we wanted to have full case management for our complaints. If we were going to make our officers handle complaints themselves, it had to have a really intuitive, easy to use system for them to make their way through complaints. Because while some services get a lot of complaints, there are other services that only get them once in a blue moon, so it needed to be easy to drop in and out of complaint handling as and when required. And we also wanted to make sure that we could track where we had improvement actions. If we were telling customers at the point of responding to complaints that we were going to do something to improve that process, we had previously had no way of recording that, and we wanted to make sure that we tracked that and it was reportable. So at that point, we started to design our process, and Rachel is now going to talk a wee bit about our process. So I don't know if you want to take over, Rachel, and share your screen.
So hopefully everyone can now see our test system. There, can you nod if you can see it?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is at the point where, say for example, customer has logged a complaint online and the notification has come into one of our CAS advisors. So they would then pick up the complaint in the system, and that would take you into it. And the first thing they would go down and read what the complaint was about, so they had some idea of where it needed to be allocated, and they would then go into the allocation process. So this takes you into the Power App that was developed, and this uses, or it's based on sort of a topic search or a list that Claire was talking about. So that's our sort of synonym list, which, to be honest, is really exciting, and also a piece of technology that we will reuse for other processes. So for example, say that complaint was about somebody who needed or had asked for a new bin and it hadn't been delivered. So they were making a complaint that it hadn't been delivered. Your CAS advisor would go in and type in bins. And then the search brings up anything that has bin in it. So they can then go through and check and have a look at all the different options. You can see here there's general waste bins, there's recycling bins, there's food bins, even moves on to litter bins in the streets. So there's loads of different options there. But we'll say for this one, the customer wanted a new bin and it was general waste. So the advisor would click on that one. It then brings up all the different bits of information. So the topic's new bin, it's waste management, it's household waste, all of those. They're able to then look at that and decide, yes, this is the right place to allocate it to, or no, it's not. If it's not, they'd go back and pick again. If it's correct, then they just allocate the topic. And that takes us out into XFP form. Obviously, quite handy, a page with some instructions and information in it. And then you move into the form where they're asking you to confirm that you've allocated it to the correct team. So we're going to say yes and move on. Then now they want a bit more information. So reason for the complaint, failure to deliver a service. We haven't given them a new bin. We've also built in a few other sort of tags in the system. One is there anything to do with data protection involved in this complaint? And this is to help our data protection team become more involved in complaints where there's been a breach or something like that. For this case, that's not the case. Same for HR, the same reason. If someone's making a complaint about an employee, HR want to be involved from an early stage, so we've built that trigger in. For this case, that's not involved. We've also got the possibility of the frontline staff being able to handle complaint on their own straight away without passing it to a service, but that would be something specific, like a policy change, and we would have a drafted response that they could then issue. But for this one, no, we can't do that, so we'll move on. Then brings you to a summary page of everything that you've put in, so you can check. If you're happy with that, you submit your form. Then gives you a bit more instruction, and you can view the case back in CXM. So you can see here now, complaints moved on. The ribbon up the top gives us guidance and information about what to do next. And you can see your two buttons here. So first step, once you're in looking at the complaint, I should probably say this is the point where one of your general officers who's dealing with complaints for that waste service will have picked the complaint up. It's not your CAS advisor at this point. So they would go in, have a look at what the complaint's about and determine whether it's for their team or not. If it is, they would say accept. I'll quickly just click on the reallocate. So this is if it's not for their service. They would go through that. And here we've got a couple of options. So the complaint's for another service. It's not for our organization. It's a service request. It's a duplicate complaint. And if you click on these, it then brings up requests for further information. Quite frequently, it's a service request, so it shouldn't have been logged as a complaint. And we've put this little improvement in that gives some advice to staff on what they need to do if it's a service request to stop reallocations going backwards and forwards. That's been quite helpful. Anyway, we'll go back to this. For this one, we're just going to accept that complaint. Ask you to say, yes, it's definitely for your service. Next step is to tell the system who's going to handle it. So we go across here to actions and assign a user. So select yourself or whoever's going to handle it. And then across the other side, which is moving the status on, but this we also use this to gather a bit of information that we then pull through into letters at a later point. And select a department that it's going from. director. And then you can see the transitions happened and it's now in progress. And again, you can see here is all the guidance now on if you're responding by phone or letter or email, if it's an invalid complaint. So it's quite handy that that guidance is there for the officers to see. As we're imagining they're ready to respond to the customer, or they've already made that telephone call. However it goes, you go to progress case, and it gives us a number of different options here. So the one that we'll follow is draft a letter email, but I'll come back to that. You've also got, if it's an invalid complaint, you can log your face-to-face conversation or a telephone response. You've also got options like if you need a further 5 days to respond. For example, key member of staff that you need to speak to is on leave for a week, something like that. You can put that extension in and it'll send a notification to the customer. Or if it's a complicated complaint and it just needs to go straight to investigation stage, you can do that. And you can see at the bottom here, we're testing a request for more information. So for example, you haven't got whatever it is that you require to make a decision on that. You can send something to the customer, but that's just in development at the moment. So, sorry, Claire, you're going to say?
No, I was just going to say, I think we're running over time a little bit, Rachel.
Oh, move on.
Yeah, I think so. I'm really sorry. I just want to give Sammy a chance to have a wee say. So let's just take control back. And if we can bring the slides back up, please. That's great. Thank you. So basically, we've made an awful lot of improvements to our whole complaint handling procedure, both for customers, services, frontline staff, and corporate improvements. I'll not speak too much through those. We will send the slides out so you can actually have a read of the improvements that we've made over that period of time. And I must apologise to Sammy that we've spoken too much, but I'll hand over to you now, Sammy.
Hi everybody. So I'll be taking you through a couple of the projects that the team's been working on, as well as some of our next steps. So one of the first projects we have here is the school enrolment form. So I think it's been mentioned throughout the morning. And like the majority of services offered in local authorities and in the private sector, the pandemic presented an opportunity and a need to really look at what we're doing and how we can do things differently. So we had quite a quick turnaround. So we had less than 3 months to design and build a new process. There was 2 iterations to the form. So there was an application form built in 2020, and then in 2021 there was a second iteration where case management was introduced. And that first iteration, the need was really driven by a few factors, but one of those was that need to avoid the parents to go into the school to apply. So moving on to the next sort of strand of the project, it is one of our more complex builds. So we've got 69 schools within the Scottish borders across a large area. So there was a requirement to restrict access to each individual school using groups and rules. So we've got around 300 rules within the form, as well as logic that deals with multiple children within an application. As well as the complex build, it was a really customer focused piece of work. So going back to that sort of people centered approach to service transformation. And what we really wanted out of this was to modernise and improve customer experience whilst addressing the immediate requirements that were brought on us due to COVID. So that customer focused element and output of that was to have a simple to use application form for our customers, to build in lookups for schools and local GPs, and also they can look up school catchment areas. They can upload support and documentation. It's something they can do anytime, anywhere on mobile devices. And there's that contact directly to parents to be able to get updates on how the application is being managed. And then the last strand, it really did demonstrate strong cross-departmental working. So we were looking at an angle of support in the service and really helping to build their resilience at a time that it was really required, but also something that kind of stood the test of time past COVID, so it's still something that is used, and we've got an enrolment week coming up. So it's been a fantastic kind of example of that collaboration. And as well as that, it was sort of from the initial inception, the project team worked really closely together from initial inception right through to testing, and then that kind of crucial post-go live period where support's required. And the customer feedback came into play in the second iteration in 2021, where we really listened to customer feedback from the application form and made quite fundamental changes to how the form was displayed, and the sort of structure of it as well. So on to the next slide. We have a bit of a process flow here. So every application starts with a My Scott Borders account, either registering or logging in if the customer already has one. And as I mentioned, you can apply for multiple children as part of the application form. And we do have an internal route, so if customers can't apply due to connectivity issues, they don't have access to a device, any sort of things, we're not putting barriers in place to our customers, so we want to be able to open it up to everybody, and yeah, not cut anybody off really. So we've got that internal route available. And we've got two routes. So we've got our catchment school enrolment, and then we've got our placement requests. And these were two separate forms before it went into Jadu. So we've been able to really streamline the process for customers and also for staff. And you can see the routes here. So they split off into each one and then come back to that confirmation that the child or children have been enrolled. So it was largely a paper-based application form prior, so we've been able to reduce our carbon footprint in that sense and reduce costs. And just for staff, really to kind of build a robust case management for them to deal with enrolment applications, giving them that digital paper trail, a consistency. So these were all managed across all of the schools within the borders. We have a lot of them. So by kind of doing everything within the system, we can give consistency to staff and in turn then to our customers and how they're managed. We've got data in one place. So again, multiple locations, multiple paper applications. We've kind of risks posed there with data protection. So we've got that risk mitigated, and we're able to capture more accurate, consistent data using the form and field validation. And then here we just have some customer feedback. So it just kind of provides that evidence there that we kind of were able to achieve what we set out in the very early days. So something that was simple, easy to use, and that customer feedback I think was really appreciated. And just going back to sort of being that sort of customer centric take, that's this is one of the best gauges that we've done it successfully. So that was really good to see. So the next project we have is home to school transport. So David touched on that earlier this morning as one of our processes. So we went through the background similarly here. So we really did identify that there was some scope there to make changes and really look at how the transport network was managed. So before, it was a process that had been in place for a number of years. It was planned on maps and coloured markers, and routes were changed when pupils started or left school. So after, we've had approximately 3,000 applications. Optimisation software, after that kind of crucial data in order for the department to help make their decision making, that data can be used in the optimisation software to establish the right number of vehicles and then drill down into those efficiencies. So there's a large number of contracts were able to be removed as a result of this, reducing the carbon footprint, and then ultimately that saving that we've been able to take out of the service. So here we have a bit of a process flow, and again, this similar to the school enrolment form, this allows for multiple children in the one application, and it just demonstrates there where we're able to use Jadu to do those automated notifications to customers, which is a real benefit. So we've got the process there. I won't speak you through it because we're maybe short on time, but the slides will be sent through to you all. There was a second phase for passenger transport, and that was home to school exam transport. So the department never really knew what capacity was required for exam transport. And ultimately, transport was provided for every exam session for every high school. So admittedly, maybe not the most efficient way to manage the network. An application process was developed similar to the home to school transport, and we received 54 applications in the first year. So really seeing that low number of 54 as a positive, because we were able to sort of narrow down to the specific requirements that were required during the exam period. And then the service were able to tailor that pupil need for specific exams at specific high schools. And then again, that cost avoidance and reducing our carbon footprint during the exam period. And just a bit of a simple process flow. And I think it's that simplicity that's really great about some of this. There's complexity where required, but having something simple that benefits the customer and the service has been really fantastic when we've been using Jadu. So what's next? We've talked a lot about what we've been doing, and there's a lot of exciting things ahead. So I think our digital transformation journey, we've got a lot happening, and it's all feeding into this vision that we have as an organisation that David had mentioned earlier this morning. So what we're really doing is looking to explore using AI to further automate processes. So we're very early on in our journey for that. And as a smaller authority, we need to look at how we can use it across the board and really enhance our digital goals and use it as an opportunity to really bring them to the next level. So we're looking to use it for helping to facilitate joining up systems where required, decision making. So these key decision types that actually could be automated, and things like chatbots. So that's really exciting. And then we also have the Confirm Community Central project, which is in progress, and that's all about a better mapping functionality for our reporting out of Confirm. So anything asset based. So at the moment we're doing road defects, but we'll be looking to roll that out to things like parks, street lighting. And what we'll be able to do is to present existing reports on a map, which is a really exciting prospect for us. And it kind of takes back to what Suraj was saying this morning about using the website as the CRM. I think it's given that visibility and transparency to customers. So that's another really exciting project. And just I'll end on sort of the process. So our process innovation, we know that it's really required within the department. We need to do things differently, or within the organisation. So it's looking at the process innovation through digital transformation to transform service delivery. So a lot going on, a lot's happened and a lot's going on, and it just wouldn't be possible without the team and the support throughout our colleagues of the organisation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sammy, and thank you to the whole team. What an amazing story so far. Just to close this out, there are a few questions being asked. I think I'll ask one, and then I think I might just hand over to Jenny Craig, who is the Service Director of Customer and Communities at the Borders, to close us out for the session. Just one question then. I think this one has been asked twice. What software do you use for planning routes?
Yep, so that's QRoutes that's used by the department.
Folks.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. So, Jenny, are you on? Oh, brilliant. Thank you. I'll hand over to David then. And listen, thank you to all the attendees. A special thank you to all the team at Borders. And over to you, David.
Thanks very much, Suraj. So thank you to everyone who's attended the session this morning. I hope you found it interesting and informative as we've tried to share some of our experiences on our digital transformation journey with you. We've covered a huge amount of content, and I suppose in the time available, we've only been able to give you a flavour of some of the work that we've done with Jadu. We've got an excellent working relationship. We've got a hugely ambitious transformation programme, And I think what we've tried to do this morning is just really to give you a flavour of some of that. We do see that digital transformation is absolutely crucial to our sustainability as an organisation. I said earlier on, we're struggling with resources and staffing and the challenges of delivering services in this rural area, given our geography, and we really see that digital transformation, process improvement, and driving good decisions through our data are absolutely essential to what we've done. So hopefully we've given you a flavour of that. We've also given you a wee insight into some of the work that we've been doing around education in terms of our Inspire learning programme, and we're very excited about the way forward. So I'll just leave you with one message. If you can do it in the borders, then given the challenges we've got, then you can do it anywhere. So just hopefully a wee insight there this morning into some of our thinking and the partnership work that we've been taking forward with Jadu. So thanks very much for your attendance, and thanks to Suraj for giving us the opportunity to showcase some of the work that we've been doing together.
Thank you, David. Very little to do with me. Thank you to the SBC team at the council, and thank you to the Jadu team for facilitating, and of course thank you to all our attendees who have been so diligent for the past few hours. And David, thanks a lot. It's really great to see you again. I'm sure this is probably the first part of the storytelling. Perhaps in a year's time we can do another retrospective like this.
Be very happy to, Suraj, and just to say, I mean, that this is absolutely nothing to do with me. I have an absolutely fantastic team. You've met some of them this morning, and they're so dedicated, passionate, and committed to what they're doing. And there's a huge amount of hugely impressive work ongoing. I'd be happy to come back in future and share some more of the story when we've developed some more.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely rest of Tuesday.